Hey there, it's another beautiful day. Let's watch some stuff.
Breaking news in the case of the JFK assassination files. They have been released by the Trump administration. They are available on archives.gov. I've been looking through them. They claim there's like 80,000 records. Apparently there's 1,123 documents, some of which are a few pages, most of which are a few pages. Here you can see interesting pieces of information about the Catholic Association for International Peace, descriptions of, I guess, potentially a suspect, someone named Cyrus Vance, who was sending a memo. Now this is CIA stuff, as you can see in the corner, and stuff about Castro, confidential. With that said, they claim this would be unredacted, and as you can see here, they were not telling the full truth because this is clearly redacted, as is this, and of course some more.
Didn't I say when that executive order was signed that it would be heavily redacted? Surprise, surprise, but there are 80,000 documents. It's insane. So that's like 80,000 pages, basically. And I personally, I'm probably not going to go through every single one of them, but I will find, clips of people who have and bring them to you because they're super fantastic, just like this one.
JFK files just dropped, and holy shit. So we're just getting started. I'm sure there's lots of stuff to come. Maybe it's nothing, but this particular page is pretty interesting. We got, let me shrink myself here. The day after the assassination, Gary Underhill left Washington in a hurry. Late in the evening, showed up at the home of friends in New Jersey. He was very agitated. A small clique within the CIA was responsible for the assassination, he confided. He was afraid for his life and probably would have to leave the country. Less than 6 months later, Underhill was found in his Washington apartment. The coroner ruled it a... Side note here, this Underhill cat has come up in various JFK things I've seen and read over the years. If I remember correctly, he was behind the left ear. Let's see. Underhill had been an intelligence agent during World War II and was recognized authority on limited warfare and small arms. A researcher and writer on military affairs, he was on a first-name basis with many of the top brass in the Pentagon. He was also on intimate terms with a number of high-ranking CIA officials. He was one of the agency's unpeople who performed special assignments. Unpeople. At one time, he had been a friend of Samuel Cummings of Interarmco, the arms broker that numbers among its customers the CIA, and ironically, Klein Sporting Goods of Chicago, from whence the mail-order Carcano allegedly was purchased by Oswald. Here we go.
Coming out the gate hot. Wow, what a doozy. I didn't realize how fantastic this clip was going to be when I first picked it. All I heard was JFK files are out, and I'm like, we're going to do that one. But wow, so the CIA may have been in it because the CIA agent was like, hey, the CIA orchestrated it, and then he ends up with his bucket kicked. Wow, and in a suspicious manner. Okay, this is incredible information that we should have known a long time ago, apparently. So a lot of individuals who witnessed this event have also had their buckets kicked, and I'm hoping we'll learn a little bit more about that as the days go by.
So the other day I had stumbled upon this TikTok video of a girl talking about going so far down the rabbit hole that she might never get out of it. And in this video she started talking about this conspiracy theory called the "We Are the Food" theory. And basically this theory is tied into a 1973 thriller movie called Soylent Green. Basically, it's a dystopian movie set in New York where the city of New York is just completely overpopulated, and I guess to save on resources like food, they sell this product that's made out of pulverized human remains. And of course, none of this is tied into any real life events. It's just, I guess, an entertaining conspiracy theory saying, what if our government were to be doing stuff like that? And I never really found anything in the internet, but at least to my understanding, it's basically, what if people that go missing in national parks or anywhere in the world survived and having their bodies turned into dust, food that we be eating every other day. It could be in your McDonald's burger, it could be in your protein shake, it could be in just countless different things, right? It's a sick theory. It's an entertaining one, but it's disgusting to think about that possibly stuff like that could be happening, but it probably isn't, and I hope not. I don't know. What do y'all think about this conspiracy theory?
Personally, I don't think this is happening on a mass scale. Like, I don't think the government is like feeding us people a la Soylent Green. Now, I do believe, and it has been shown, that there are people and or groups of people that are kicking people's buckets and feeding them to other people or themselves, just like in fried green tomatoes. But I don't think this is happening on a mass scale.
This black, mysterious substance is called black goo. We do not have much information about it, but as far as I've known, it has been mined from deep underground and in complete secrecy.
Guess what? I made a little flag. It's my little BS flag, so I can wave it when I see some stuff. That is, in fact, I learned about this yesterday on Z Frank. Let's do it. Okay, I'm gonna do a shameless plug. If you haven't checked out this channel, you need to check it out. It is Z Frank, and he is on YouTube, and he does amazing stuff, and it's super funny and adultish, but he talks about animals and their super cool like abilities and stuff like that. But I definitely suggest you check him out. One more time, Z Frank. Absolutely hilarious. Thank you for sticking around for this week's shameless plug. Now, back to the BS. I just learned this. This is what that is.
Hey guys, so what do you see here? What you see here are California black worms. These come from California, as they say, and they are a small aquatic black worm that are excellent nutrition for axolotls.
They're just little tiny worms that like bunch together to like save their moisture and stuff like that. They live in like little clumps and stuff. It's California black worms. Now, I'm not saying that black goo doesn't exist. Perhaps it is just an interesting camouflage that the black goo decided to assimilate this particular behavior, and they're from California.
What's really eye-opening here is you watch your TV, but with this hack, your TV can watch you. Show us how that works.
So one of the things that we were able to do with the Smart TV platform was actually abuse the browser to the extent that we could actually gain access to the camera that's built into the TV.
Right.
And so what we can prove here is that with a little bit of extra code, we can turn the camera on in your browser.
Wow.
And while this is evident to you right here because we've designed it that way, this is something that we can do invisibly and actually have the camera running behind the web page that you're looking at.
So what this means is I could be sitting here watching TV from my bedroom, and you could be anywhere in the world looking at this image of me watching.
Yep, I could be sitting on a laptop in a cafe in Paris, and as long as I have a network connection, I'd be able to get into your TV and access the camera.
The kind of scary things about it is that it doesn't actually give any indication that the camera's on, and there is no little LED that shows up when the camera's on. So it could actually be watching you and you never even know.
What is a smart TV, and why is it a playground essentially for hackers?
Right. It's a computer. So instead of just being, a tube and some other electronics, now it has a web browser, and it has, a lot of devices are running Linux.
But the real danger is when people start using smart TVs for things like online banking, we can take a popular bank address and translate that into a different IP address to a site that directs to a site that we control. So it may look like your bank's login, but you're actually entering a username and password that goes to us instead of your bank.
In a statement to CNN Money, Samsung says it takes consumer privacy very seriously. The camera can be turned into the bezel of the TV so that the lens is covered or disabled by pushing the camera inside the bezel. The TV owner can also unplug the TV from the home network when the smart TV features are not in use. As an added precaution, we also recommend that customers use encrypted wireless access points when using connected devices. For those of us who are a little freaked out and maybe don't trust all these updates, what's the easiest fix?
So one of the things that you could do with the smart TV, which you can also do with your laptops, is just cover up the camera. Put a little Post-it note over it, a piece of tape, and next time that you want to Skype with your family, just take it off.
I'm fairly certain that this has been going on ever since the invention of the webcam, right? Anybody could just hack into it and see what the heck's going on, but I didn't know that the smart TVs had that capability. I have never used Skype, and I've never used my TV for that function, but that's a little concerning because a lot of people, like myself, have a TV in the bedroom.
Sound and frequency is more powerful than they want y'all to know. Check this out, y'all. You definitely see the rocks levitating. All due to sound and frequency. This stuff is way more powerful than they want y'all to know. Some say frequency can even cure illnesses. This is insane, y'all. Frequencies may be the key to a lot of things in the universe. As always, thanks for watching. Stay weird.
Sound and frequency is absolutely wild. It really is the things that can be done with it that I am learning just now, in my age, just learning these things. And there's a very good possibility that that's how the pyramids were built. I mean, I believe it anyway, because there were advanced civilizations prior to our own, or maybe even aliens. I can dig it.
Enough with the games. Y'all, come on. They say that this is the astronauts returning from space. Yes, these astronauts have just returned from space. And wait till I show y'all the video of them apparently having a parachute coming from space after 17 hours and landing in the water. Oh my gosh.
And splashdown. Crew 9 back on Earth. Dragon Freedom has returned home with NASA astronauts Nick Hague, Sonny Williams, Butch Wilmore, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov.
I'm not gonna lie, y'all, this is so childish. Like, so childish. First of all, the lady's like, they're finally back on Earth. They were on Earth once they crossed back into Earth's atmosphere. Like, why are you saying that they're on Earth when they hit the water if they've been back on Earth, first of all? That really just pissed me off. Also, like, how dumb do you think we are? Like they must think that AI has gotten so good that people can't tell. But even if it wasn't AI, you mean to tell me that they just dropped this thing so delicately? So Earth is 62 miles away from space, and you mean to tell me that they came straight down 62 miles, and then once they got to a decent speed, they just put the parachutes out so they can land so delicately in the water? At this point, y'all should be upset by how dumb they think we are, because this is asinine. Were they ever in space? No. And how did they get rescued? Y'all tell me, did the parachutes rescue them? Who rescued them? How did they get down? Because all I see is a parachute, 2 parachutes, and a rocket that they're probably sending. I'm dumbfounded by this. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, this guy makes my head a little hurry, but I understand that a lot of people, align with his thinking here. Then they just dropped the capsule out of an airplane at a super high altitude and it wasn't going that fast. But when you think about it, they said the space station was going 17,000 miles an hour. The Earth is spinning at like 24 some odd thousand miles an hour, so maybe they weren't actually traveling at 17,000 miles an hour when they entered the atmosphere. Perhaps it slowed down, and that's why they have everything going in a certain, pattern with the Earth, so that when the capsule comes in and stuff goes up, it doesn't have to go that fast. That makes a lot of mathematical sense inside my brain. But they also showed the entire slowdown process where they, you know, put out the parachutes, and then they put out the second phase of parachutes, and how long it took for them to slow down. So I just, if you watch the whole thing, it makes a lot more sense. And I think I'm totally on board. I think that we got stuff out in space.
At Roswell, 2 UFO crashes at Roswell on July the 4th, 1947. One of the machines was sufficiently intact to be recovered, and they began back engineering that. Before long, they moved the operation to Nevada. And the president then was Eisenhower, and he wanted to know what they were doing out there, and they wouldn't tell him. So he threatened to send in the First Army from Colorado. They capitulated and allowed him to send 4 trusted members of the CIA to visit Colorado and see what was going on. Well, what was going on was exactly what they really expected, and that is the back engineering of one of the vehicles from the Roswell area. I don't think there's been a president since, well, actually Truman, who has really been in the loop, totally. President Eisenhower vented his frustration in his final speech to the American people at the time he was retiring from public life. He said, "Beware of the military-industrial complex." And the problem is we have paid no attention to him. An eyewitness who had worked in the company of President Eisenhower said what he was really concerned about was that the ET file had fallen into the wrong hands.
All right, so you already know where my conspiracy brain goes on this one. Straight to DARPA. That's where this file has fallen, is right into the hands of DARPA. And that's why you gotta beware of the military-industrial complex, because a lot of that money is being siphoned away and into this DARPA thing that's creating stuff that's decades ahead of anything that we have publicly available. And that's why it doesn't cost, you know, $16 million to make a single jet. And the rest of the money that it doesn't cost to make this single jet goes there. And then plausible deniability. The president doesn't know about this because they just think it costs $16 million to make a jet. Nay. So maybe all of this like alien reverse engineering is gonna be like stripped away now that, you know, people are finding all this extra money that's going places that it shouldn't be going.
What if the ocean isn't what we think it is? What if it's actually outer space? A few years ago, an independent researcher named Tyler Schmerkenheser vanished without a trace. Before he disappeared, he built a one-of-a-kind submarine designed to prove a theory so insane, no one believed him. He was convinced the ocean floor doesn't exist, that everything we know about the deep sea is a lie. So he took his submarine into the Mariana Trench, the deepest, most unexplored place on Earth. He strapped a camera to the front, ready to capture proof. And what he found wasn't the seafloor. Instead, he hit a black, swirling vortex, an abyss so dark, no previous expedition had ever recorded it. And when he passed through, he came out somewhere else. A place that looked like an upside-down Earth, a shoreline where human-like beings stood staring at him. Then his camera cut out, and no one has seen or heard from him since.
Schmerkenheser? I tried looking it up and I found nothing. I don't think that that's an actual person, Tyler Schmerkenheser. I do believe that we've, you know, traversed pretty deeply. I don't discredit the thought of like inner Earth stuff going on, but I don't know if that story was actually true. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not.
What do you feel about the crop circles?
It's funny that you instinctively just said that, because that's kind of what I've realized they are. They're cymatics of the Earth speaking to us. And what's interesting is there's videos where these little orbs come about, and then you see this design being drawn. And that those orbs, I've learned, are the compression of certain materials stacked on top of each other, which then create the orbs. That's where, like, all those people, when they're like, oh, there's all these ghosts over there. Well, there's actually compressions of certain types of materials which stack together, create a chemical reaction, and then you have this orb. But I believe with the crop circles that it's Mother Earth speaking to us. And when I started to look at all of them, I started to see designs, I started to see like inventions, I started to see actually a lot of things related to atmospheric energy. You know, I started to see alignments, like things like the eclipse and how like significant the eclipse is. And like even here, we had 2 eclipses, you know, in 2 weeks. And if you stared into it, your energy goes through the roof. You know, so all these things that Mother Earth is trying to communicate with us. And like you said, we used to be tapped into this. We used to be able to see these frequencies, or at least tap into that. And we've disconnected and lost that. But the crop circles thing's just as wild, because they even said too that people will meditate in them, their energy will go very high, or they'll notice all these plants, that same thing. The plant growth is like wild. And they noticed, what's the other thing? They noticed like all these different types of rare plants popping up in that same spot. So it's almost like, in my opinion, Mother Earth is trying to communicate us and trying to tell you something, and you need to pay attention. But we don't understand it anymore because we speak with this new language that we have instead of symbols and shapes and understanding fractals or frequency. You know, because everything has a frequency, everything is a fractal, you know, everything is designed into that. And Marcel Vogel did a lot with that. He did a lot with his crystals and talking to plants and creating liquid crystal displays. But crop circles kind of took me to about 1,000 different other rabbit holes that I didn't know I was going to lead to. But it was just remarkable to understand that, you know, this energy is there. It's always present. And, you know, it's for us to tap into. Otherwise, it gets named when pseudoscience and all the Rockefeller terms and everything else.
First of all, let me just say that it's not okay to stare into the sun when there's an eclipse happening. Now, I know that some people are like, but hey, they just tell you that because they don't want you to absorb the potential energy that you can get from that. But I'm saying that because I can't promote unhealthful things. Now, that being said, how absolutely fantastic is that? I mean, I believe that crop circles are made by aliens, but the theory that it's the Earth communicating with us, that we need to get more in touch with the Earth for our own good, basically, I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Corey, this one will freak you out. Okay. So the story goes, this guy is pig hunting and he's using a thermal scope. He's been on this field all night, hasn't seen anything move. He's like, you know what? I'm going to get up from this tree. He was like on some brush and he's like, I'm going to go across the field. And he's sitting there for a while, and then out of nowhere, a little blob shows up. He's like, here we go. The pigs are coming in. He's locked in. He's ready, you know, for the thing to show itself. But then it gets up and he realizes that this infrared blob is humanoid. And he said it appears to look like a naked human. Goes over to the tree that he was just sitting against and starts checking it out or sniffing it. And the guy is across the field just going like, I don't understand what I'm looking at. Then the thing is on all fours, postures up like it's about to howl, and then in a woman's voice goes, help! Oh gosh. Help! Continues to do it. The dude fires one way over the top of this thing's head, and then it goes, I'm injured, help! And then he sends another one. It runs, and he sends a couple, and he's like, it ran away from where my truck is, goes back to his truck, never goes in that field again.
Yeah, I hate that so much.
Said it was a naked humanoid, crawled up and was sniffing the tree the dude was just sitting on. It had been stalking him.
In the middle of the night?
Yeah.
Ugh.
No thank you. That's terrifying. That is pretty scary. Now, I believe in weird stuff, and that is weird and pretty freaking scary. All right, you ready for part 3? Let's do it.
There was a meeting to decide what to do here. There was a great deal of concern about intervening to assist us in our evolution, because there were outside influences that were doing everything they could to suppress our evolution. And that's a whole other story. A very large contingency, fortunately, thought that it was in not only their best interest, but in our best interest to at least give us the opportunity to make our own choices without being manipulated. A smaller group made the argument, and this was their argument. They don't respect themselves, they don't respect each other, and they don't respect their home. What is their value? We are so busy with our life and going from here to there to here to there, packing up the kids, going to work, paying our bills, doing the grocery shopping, getting gas in the car. We are so busy with our lives that we rarely ever stop to think about what it is that we're really creating. Sometimes something has to happen, like a 9/11, like the cyclone that just hit Myanmar, the earthquake that hit China, where we're jolted out of our reality and we're able to take a step back and say, whoa, what are we doing? I share that with you because most of humanity is in that place. You know, they're heads down and they're just pushing along, plodding along, trying to survive, trying to do everything that we've been doing and our ancestors have been doing for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. None of that stuff's going to work anymore. Okay, I know you guys already know that. Okay, the old paradigms are crumbling. They're done. It's just a question of time before they completely collapse and fall. And if you're watching that, if you're watching the world, you're beginning to see it. It's all crumbling. One of the things that the Andromedans are in awe of us about is our ability to create domains of knowing. So what am I talking about? The idea of human rights, the idea of a Bill of Rights, individual liberties, guaranteed rights of a people, how to live and how to be treated. That has not existed on our planet forever. Okay? But we created that. We created the idea of freedom. We created the idea of space travel. We created the idea of free energy. Now, yes, a lot of that has also come from the outside. But the reality is, the reason it's coming from the outside is because we pulled it here. Us. Okay, as a collective consciousness. We pulled all that to us. We even pulled the ETs here. And they've been here for a very, very long time. Okay, the worshiping of the gods, Hermes and Titan and yada, yada, yada. Okay? We did that because we are that powerful. We're magnificent. They are absolutely in awe of the ability for people to create music, like our musicians here. They're amazed that they can just pull it out of nowhere. Because the Andromedans, they don't do that. As advanced as they are, they can't do that. What they do is as they travel through star systems, they have these holographic cameras that take pictures of stars, constellations, planets, and they all have a tone and a frequency. And what they'll do is they'll record that, and then they will overlay those tones and frequencies, and that's how they create their music. All right? They take the music that the universe creates. We, on the other hand, we create our own. We just pull it out of nowhere. Now, it's the Andromedan perspective that we have all outlived our religions 450 years ago. But you know, everybody's looking, everybody's trying to find their own way. And hopefully they will all find it in their time. We do have a window, however. And I know that there's a lot of talk of 2012. I honestly do not know what's going to happen. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen. I don't necessarily know that I want to know. This is quite an adventure.
I'm not feeling it. I mean, yay, aliens. I'm hoping the next part is a little bit better, but this one felt a little preachy, like, oh, look how wonderful we are. We do all this fantastic stuff, which is true. It is fantastic, everything that the human is capable of doing and has become capable of doing. But I just, yay. Hopefully the next one's better. On that note, I'm calling it for today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Please come on back in a couple of days. We're gonna watch some new stuff. I'll say different things. That's gonna be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.